Yes! Otherwise we'd all die! We'd have all been destroyed!
There's this episode in the beloved 1995 anime series, Neon Genesis Evangelion, that sums up why I love the series as a whole. In the episode, Shinji and the other characters experience the Human Instrumentality Project, an event wherein all of humanity merges together into one transcendental being, essentially becoming a godlike creature with no weaknesses, as the weaknesses, insecurities, and faults of one human will be complemented by the strengths, characteristics, and the positive qualities of another, resulting in this completion of the human existence in the form of LCL, a liquid that merges humans through a neural link, and additionally, LCL is the form that humans take when the Human Instrumentality Project occurs. Okay, if that is confusing for you, then let me explain. The characters of Neon Genesis Evangelion all in some way desire to be a part of the Human Instrumentality Project, because they feel it in themselves that they are not complete, that they cannot bear to be alone by themselves, alone with their thoughts, or alone with their silent screams.
For God's sake, help me! Somebody please help me! Is anyone listening? Somebody please help me!
It has been the norm for people in today's society to constantly find ways to avoid being alone. Teenagers living in their own online bubbles, friends always on the lookout for a day where they could all hang out, strangers crossing roads with their headphones on, and much more. To be honest, I do all that too. As human beings, it is in our very system to seek interactions that take our attention away and activities that keep us occupied. Whenever a person feels a hint of separation or distance inside them, they turn to habits that give them satisfaction, even if it does not serve them well. What people are doing right now is escaping a concept that has been with them ever since their birth. Although it is a primary idea within all of us, most people are not familiar with how important it is in forming our whole. That concept is the self. The self is an autonomous agent of independent thought that desires purpose, potential, and people. It is natural for most to seek the third one, people, as it is in others that we see ourselves in. Through people, we get to look from a different perspective of humanity and existence, regardless of our familiarity with that person and their ideas. However, in the pursuit of the other, we tend to overestimate how many people we can connect with and whether or not we are understood by them. In our relentless chase of the presence of the unself, we had to invent coping mechanisms to keep our isolation at bay. In that unbothered focus towards people, we lose sight of our purpose and potential, leaving us to be a husk of ourselves, unable to understand what is inside of us, endlessly fleeing from the truth of the singular person. When we leave ourselves alone, without anyone, or without everyone, that is when we see the truth. That is when we see the reality of our situation. Most of us are lonely, not because we want to, but because we lost touch with ourselves. And we can't help but stay silent in that corner, stay chained to this self-imposed punishment we unwittingly put ourselves in every time our memories of others become tainted, twisted, even tormenting. Now everyone is an enemy, and it's you versus them. The worst thing is that you don't even know if they miss you or not. Do they miss me? Are they choosing work over me? Is she talking to others behind my back? You don't know. The very nature of loneliness is a tragedy. They aren't even there in the first place. No one would know. Or would they? In 2006, an English woman was found dead in her London apartment, reduced to a skeleton after 3 years of decay and neglect. It was reported that she had cut off all contact with everyone she knew. She quit her high-paying job, abandoned her dream of becoming a singer, and took a job as a waitress at a low-star hotel. She died alone, on a couch, watching TV. In front of her were gift stockings and Christmas presents, prepared and waiting. She died lonely. Perhaps she had lived that way too. At her funeral, a few eulogies praised her beauty, potential, and her remarkable talent for singing. Even some past admirers attended, offering their sympathies and thoughts. It was heartwarming and sincere. But if that's the case, why did she die like that? How could her body have been left to decay in isolation, forgotten for years? If those who spoke of her truly cared, wouldn't they have reached out? Why is it so difficult to live with oneself, yet so easy to isolate someone from the world? Was Joyce Vincent a bad person? A terrible human being? The strange one in the corner? Or the forgotten one? No, she wasn't. So why did no one notice her absence? How could anyone bear the disappearance of another so easily? We shun them away, hold on to our pride, wear masks instead of revealing our true selves, step back from conversations, avoid difficult questions, avoid crowds, avoid groups, avoid friends, avoid family, avoid the reflection in the mirror, avoid ourselves. When Joyce Carol Vincent's death appeared in the local newspaper, her siblings and those who had known her were understandably upset and saddened. But among all the reactions, one stood out. A seemingly random woman came across the article and felt compelled by it. Her name was Carol Morley. Carol, a filmmaker, was deeply moved not by how Joyce died, but by how she had lived. Morley painstakingly interviewed everyone Joyce had connected with, trying to piece together the story of her life. The result was the documentary Dreams of a Life, released in 2011 to generally favorable reviews. Some praised it, others critiqued it, but its most significant achievement was the impact it had. Its dedication to honoring Joyce Carol Vincent's life, even if it couldn't fully redeem her tragic end. In the final text of my essay, I would like to prescribe a viewpoint, or rather a refraction of singularity. In the self, thus two choices arise, the one of loneliness, to grovel in despair and the great dark ego wrapping you in fear, or the one of solitude, to stand up in complete faith in the promise of one's potential, under God and in one's own trust. In solitude, we are given the freedom to know who we are outside of the societal constraints that are demanded of us through human connection. To step into a perceived set of rules that define our conversations, restraint, temperance, sincerity, expression, and interest boxes us into a mold we do not choose ourselves but we decide to end up in anyway. The conditions of connection requires us not to be ourselves, but to heed to the aspects of idealism and emotional tangibility. We always have to be understandable to be understood. It would be a miracle if one were to be themselves with another. Such a sweet reality to be in. But that is for another video.
You can take care of yourself.
I hate myself. But maybe I could love myself. Maybe my life could have a greater value.
That's right. I am no more or less than myself. I am me. I want to be myself. I want to continue existing in this world. My life is worth living here.
In the final episode of Evangelion, Shinji realizes that the perceived reality he acquires is a result of the different influences he has had upon him. In the end, he realizes that how he sees the world is completely his choice, and how he sees himself as an individual is a continuous process of the powerful desire to seek his own agency and the sense of self, completing his arc in the series. It is one of my personal favorite endings in any piece of media, regardless if most fans prefer the film ending. If there's one thing to learn from all this, it is that being alone and being happy are not exclusive things. If you so desire it, you can choose to thrive alone and to love yourself without the need for others to remind you of that. But even if that is so, let me remind you that I care and I am here for you, and you are loved. God bless you. With all that said, thank you for watching.